What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL video on the channel. And in today's one, we are going to be looking at players you should be looking to avoid at the start of the Premier League season. And I want to start off by talking about the Manchester City attackers. As you guys can see on your screens, we do have Ryan Cherki, Omar Marmoush and Phil Foden. And in my opinion, these are players you should definitely be looking to avoid at the start of the season. And of course, guys, I am no FPL expert, but this is just my opinion. Now, I want to start off by talking about Ryan Cherki because funnily enough, he's probably my favorite player to watch in the Premier League right now. And funnily enough, he is probably, in my opinion, one of the best players in the Premier League in terms of natural footballing ability. What this guy can do with a ball at his feet is absolutely out of this world, right? He's a ridiculous footballer. I was watching him play in League One in France at Lyon, and guys, I can tell you from now, right, he's a sensational footballer. When you talk about playmaking ability, passing ability, chance creation, the ability to beat a man 1v1, his finishing ability, guys, he has it all. Left foot, right foot, it doesn't matter, right? So Ryan Cherki, for me, as I said, bro, in terms of natural footballing ability, there is an argument to be made that he is one of the best players in the Premier League. I rate this guy so high. But even though I'm saying all of this about Ryan Cherki, I'm still gonna say you must avoid this player. Do not go there, because for me, Pep Roulette will just destroy him as an FPL asset, right? I can guarantee you now he won't be a consistent starter. He'll start some games and get benched some games, and for that reason, he cannot be trusted. He cannot be trusted as an FPL asset, and that's why, even though I rate him so highly as a pure footballer, right? You cannot go there for FPL, bro. You simply cannot go there. Look, you don't want to be checking the Man City lineups, right, and seeing Cherki on the bench. You don't want to be checking the City lineups and be seeing Omar Marmoush and Foden on the bench, because you know what? I'm going to be honest, guys. If I was looking at a Manchester City attacker, Erling Haaland is the only player I would consider at the moment, right? Because, yeah, man, Pep is just so unpredictable and he's constantly changing his teams. I've learned my lesson from last season, right? You know, I went for Phil Foden, it didn't work out. And just in previous years of playing FPL, man, like, yeah, Pep Roulette is a real thing, guys, and it will destroy you, right? So for me, I would just avoid Ryan Cherki to start the season, even though I rate him so much. Yeah, I just wouldn't go anywhere near him. And to be honest with you, as I said, bro, the same goes for Marmoush, the same goes for Phil Foden. I think Phil Foden, yes, is a quality player. Again, another player that I like to watch, another player that I think has got tons of footballing ability. And we've seen Phil Foden in the past absolutely destroy the Premier League and get multiple goals and assists. But after the way he stunk out the gaff every single week in, week out last season, I don't think we can trust Phil Foden to be a consistent starter this season. And therefore, again, I think he is another FPL asset that will be sort of destroyed due to Pep Roulette, right? So for me, I would avoid Phil Foden to start the season. I don't see him being a consistent starter. So yeah, I just don't think we can go there. And again, the same goes for Omar Marmoush. But one thing I will say, out of these three players, I do think Marmoush is most likely to get the most minutes out of these three players. But I would still have him down as an avoid, man. I really just would. Listen, I just think one of the things I personally hate the most anyway, you guys might be different, but for me, one of the things I hate the most when playing FPL is when I check the lineups and I see my player is benched, bro. I just hate it. It's such a mood killer. It's like, bro, I didn't even, like, it's almost like it's over before it's even started. Like, I just hate it. I really do just hate it when my player gets benched, right? So for me, this season, I'm being strict with myself. I'm not getting tempted by these other City players, because yes, I love watching these players play on the football pitch. Yes, I love watching Ryan Cherki. Yes, I love watching Phil Foden when he's at his best. But you know what? They can't be trusted as FPL assets. It's simple as that. So for me, I would definitely be looking to avoid these players, guys. All right, guys. So next up, we do have Joao Pedro and Delap. And yes, I am telling you to avoid both of these players. And I actually do think me saying to avoid, specifically Joao Pedro, is going to be a very controversial take, because I actually just checked and he is the highest owned player in the game at the moment with 60% ownership, even more ownership than Mohamed Salah, which is absolutely crazy in my opinion. The whole FPL community shaking their bum, twerking for Joao Pedro, and in my opinion, I really disagree. I don't understand. Why is everyone picking Joao Pedro? Can we even trust Joao Pedro to start week in, week out for Chelsea? Please, guys, because I'm going to be honest, I think as an FPL asset, right, Joao Pedro has probably got a little bit worse. I think, at Brighton, he was guaranteed to play 90 minutes. He was guaranteed to start week in, week out. He was even on penalties. But now, he doesn't have penalties. He's not guaranteed 90 minutes. And he's not guaranteed to start week in, week out. So in my opinion, yes, I know he's playing in a better team. But I think as an FPL asset, he has slightly got worse. And I really don't understand why the entire FPL community is shaking their bum for this man. That is my honest opinion. Yes, Chelsea have good fixtures. I really do understand that. Yes, Chelsea are improving as a team. I do understand that. But individually, as an FPL asset, can he be trusted? Liam Delap is always there lurking in the background, waiting to start games and also waiting to come on off the bench. I mean, yes, Joao Pedro, he did score in both games in the Club World Cup, right? But in both games, we did see Joao Pedro get subbed off around the 60th minute. And I think that will happen in the Premier League, right? Delap is more than capable of coming in and replacing Joao Pedro in matches when Chelsea need to change it up. And I really do see that happening a lot. I do see that happening a lot. So for me, I'm not too confident with Joao Pedro being a reliable FPL asset. And when you factor in European football, when you factor in the fact that Chelsea are playing Champions League football as well, are we really saying that Joao Pedro is going to be the starting number 9 in the Champions League and then start in the Premier League as well? Week in, week out with Delap just on the bench? I don't know about that. And yes, Joao Pedro, he can play multiple positions. He can play in that 10 role. He can play maybe on the left. It's probably not his best position on the left, but he can play there. But I'd say predominantly Joao Pedro will probably switch between playing as a number 10 and as a number 9. But look, I don't think he can be trusted. I don't know if Cole Palmer is going to be playing in the 10 or on the right. Now that Madueke has been sold, there is an argument to be made that Cole Palmer could potentially be playing as a right winger this season, and that could free up a spot for Joao Pedro to play in that number 10 role, and then maybe Liam Delap playing the number 9. It could work out like that, and if that does happen, then fair enough. I would have got it wrong. I hold my hands up completely. But right now, assuming that Cole Palmer will mainly be playing in that number 10 role, right? For me, that does make Joao Pedro not a great FPL option. That's my honest opinion. So look, a lot of you are probably going to disagree, right? Because a lot of you probably have him in your team. I mean, 60% ownership is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, for me, I just don't know if we can trust Joao Pedro to start week in, week out. That's my honest opinion. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, it is pretty interesting how Chelsea will line up. I'm not sure how many friendlies they'll play before the season starts, because I think they only come back to training 2 weeks before the season starts. But it would be nice if we can see a couple friendlies with Chelsea to see what they do with their starting 11, because I will admit, right, if Palmer is going to be mainly playing off the right, then I do think it does open up a space for Joao Pedro. Obviously, Enzo could play in the 10. We've seen that happen before with Chelsea. But I would say more likely maybe Joao Pedro goes in the 10. That could definitely happen. So you never know. But at the same time, man, I mean, Chelsea, they've signed Gittins. He'll probably play off the left. They've got Neto to play off the right. Palmer probably plays off the 10. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. But right now, because even that uncertainty, even the fact that I'm not too sure how Chelsea are going to shape up at the start of the season, that's why I just wouldn't go for Joao Pedro. For me, the only Chelsea attacker right now I'd go for is Cole Palmer. The likes of Neto, Gittins, Delap, Joao Pedro, I'd be looking to avoid. That's my personal opinion. Of course, I am not a FPL expert, like I said, so you can disagree with me if you want. But yeah, that is my personal opinion. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Joao Pedro. That's my thoughts on, obviously, Delap as well. I just definitely wouldn't even consider him. If I was to pick between the two, I'd go for Joao Pedro over Delap. Delap, I wouldn't even touch. So yeah, that's my opinion. Let's just move on to the next players. So next up, we do have these two Arsenal defenders, William Saliba and Miles Lewis-Skelly. I really do think you should be looking to avoid these two players, and that's mainly just because of the fixtures Arsenal have to start the season. They really do have a difficult start, and the only defender I would consider, which is even a stretch in my opinion, but if I was to go there, as much as I don't want to, if I was to go to an Arsenal defender, it would be Gabriel, because of his just incredible set piece threat. But in terms of Saliba and Miles Lewis-Skelly, I would definitely just avoid these two players, right? When you look at the fixture to start the season, it is just really, really difficult. And I just don't know how you really make a case for picking an Arsenal defender when they've got such a difficult start to the season. You know, in game week 1, it's United away from home. In game week 2, it's Leeds at home. That's a very, very good fixture. But then game week 3, it's Liverpool away at Anfield. In game week 4, Nottingham Forest at home. I don't think that's a bad fixture. But then in game week 5 and 6, it's Man City at home and then Newcastle away. So yeah, for me, game weeks 1 to 6 isn't really ideal for an Arsenal defender, especially when you factor in how, you know, pricey these defenders are. William Saliba coming in at 6 million, Miles Lewis-Skelly coming in at 5.5. I think with these fixtures, I just don't think, you can really make a case for starting an Arsenal defender with this tough fixture on. I mean, yes, Arsenal are definitely probably the best, defensive team in the league. They always have, some of the best defensive numbers in the league over the past few seasons. I do understand that. But I just think that considering how expensive they are, do you really want to be spending 6 million on like William Saliba, for example, when he's got Anfield, he's got to go to Anfield, he's got to go to St James's Park, he's got to play against Man City. I just don't know how. I generally just cannot think of a logical reason to start with an Arsenal defender for the first 6 games. Of course, once we get past game week 6, we look at game week 7, 8, 9, 10 and onwards, right? You can see the fixtures there for Arsenal are a lot better. That's when you go for an Arsenal defender. But I just simply can't make a case going for an Arsenal defender when their fixtures are just so tough from game week 1 to 6. So yeah, as I said, I understand Arsenal are one of the best defensive teams in the Premier League. But for me, I just think it makes sense to avoid, man. And when you look at players like Cucurella, for example, Cucurella costs 6 million, right? Chelsea, that's the same price as William Saliba. And Chelsea have by far the better fixtures to start the season. And Chelsea also have really, really strong defensive data. So if I'm picking a 6 million defender, I'm definitely avoiding William Saliba, right? 100%. I'd rather go for a Cucurella, who's also got the attacking threat, but also, good fixtures and playing in a good team defensively as well. So yeah, man, I just can't make a case for spending the premium price for the likes of William Saliba and Miles Lewis-Skelly to start the season. It literally is just a case of having not very, very good fixtures to start the season. If I was going to pick a defender, as I said, it would be Gabriel, but even then, that is very far-fetched. I don't think I would go for Gabriel either. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of that. Let's move on to the next players. So next up, we do have 2 of my boys, 2 players from my club, right? Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo. And even though I do support Manchester United, even though I do love my club, I'm going to be honest, guys, I really do think we should be looking to avoid Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo to start the Premier League season. Of course, at some point throughout the season, they may be very, very good options. But to start the Premier League season, again, I just don't think we can make a case for picking these 2 players, especially at their price points as well. Matheus Cunha coming in at a price of 8 million and Bryan Mbeumo also coming in at a price of 8 million. I think Manchester United probably have, along with Arsenal, probably have some of the worst fixtures to start the season, right? That's my honest opinion. I just think on paper our fixtures are really, really difficult. It's an opening game against Arsenal at home. Then after that, it's Fulham away. Then Burnley at home, which is good in game week 3. But then in game week 4, it's City away. In game week 5, it's Chelsea at home. And then in game week 6 and 7, we do have slightly better fixtures, right? We've got Brentford away in 6 and then Sunderland in game week 7. But then after that, it's Liverpool away from home. So I just do think the fixtures to start the season for Manchester United is pretty bad, right? It is pretty bad. So that's why I wouldn't really go there. But also, it's not just because of the fixtures. It's because right now, right, the knowledge that we have of Manchester United under Amram is the fact that we are a very, very bad footballing team and we don't score goals, right? That's the information we've got so far. And of course, new signings will improve us as a team. However, right, I think it's better to just sit back and see how we play this season with our new signings under Ruben Amorim, right? Because right now, Ruben Amorim is definitely proven to be a fraud, right? Simple as that. We absolutely stunk up the place last season, week in, week out. We struggled to score goals, right? And I just think it's best to just avoid the Man United players for now, see how we play these new signings, and then go from there, right? Because, yeah, as a footballing side, what we showed last season was just nothing short of an absolute disgrace. Simple as that. So yeah, I think there is a lot to see with Manchester United. How do the likes of Matheus Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo get integrated into the side? In terms of what I will say though, right? I'm going to speak on both players. So first things first, with Cunha, I do think, right, when we do have a good run of fixtures, Cunha could definitely be a viable pick, 100%, because I think he's a quality player. His finishing ability is really, really good, really clinical. We saw last season the amount of quality goals he scored, and I just think he is such a good player. And if I was to make a prediction as to who would be sort of Manchester United's highest goal scorer this Premier League season, I would actually say Matheus Cunha. I think he is going to be our talisman, right? So I do think there will be certain points throughout the season where he will be a good option, but right now I'd wait, number one, to see how we play this season under Ruben Amorim, to see if we've improved as a team. But also I'd also wait to to a time where we get better fixtures, because as I said, the fixture on the start of the season for United isn't very good. Now in terms of Bryan Mbeumo, real quick, what I want to say, if you guys are probably wondering, where will Bryan Mbeumo play, because we also do have Amad Diallo. Well, what I expect this season is Bryan Mbeumo to play in that sort of right number 10 role. So Cunha operating that left 10 role, Bryan Mbeumo to operate in that right 10 role, and I do believe Amad Diallo will be playing as a right wing back this season. I think that's what we can expect in terms of position wise for these two players, Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo. So yeah, man, I think right now just avoid these players, because look, Manchester United, as much as it hurts me to say, I have to be honest, I have to tell the truth, and we absolutely, like I said, stunk up the place last season. So let's just see how we perform in pre-season. Let's see how Amorim decides to play with the new signings as well. But yeah, for me, I'll be looking to avoid Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo. So next up, we do have Anthony Elanga and Jacob Murphy. And yes, I am saying I believe you should be avoiding these players to start the season. I think the only two Newcastle attackers I would personally go for is Alexander Isak, of course, if he does stay there, and Anthony Gordon. They're the only two Newcastle players I would consider. I just think Anthony Elanga and Murphy are definitely going to be sort of rotated. I really wouldn't be surprised if they are rotated. Of course, Newcastle are playing in the Champions League as well. So yeah, for me, I would just stay far away, man. I think, look, in terms of Anthony Elanga as well, I do want to speak about how he's going to adjust in this Newcastle team, because typically speaking, right, Anthony Elanga, what we saw last season, he was at his best playing in a Nottingham Forest team that like to play on transition. They set up very, very defensively, Nottingham Forest, and they like to hit teams on the break. They like to hit teams on the counter, and that is where Anthony Elanga thrived. However, he's now playing in a Newcastle team that predominantly like to play on the front foot. They play a high pressing system, and I think they like to pin teams back. And I think more times than not, I think this season, now that he's playing for Newcastle, he's going to find himself playing against sort of low blocks a lot more than he did when he was playing for Forest last season. That's what I think, and I do wonder how he's going to cope with that, because I think he struggles in games where teams sort of sit back and decide to play low blocks. So I think, of course, not every team will play against Newcastle in that way, but it certainly will happen a lot more against Newcastle than it did against Nottingham Forest last season, because last season, Nottingham Forest just allowed teams to have the ball. There were so many games I watched with Nottingham Forest last season, even when they were playing the likes of like Leicester, for example. They were just giving Leicester plenty of the ball. Even games where they were playing like Everton, for example, they were giving Everton plenty of the ball, allowing them to have possession. That won't happen at Newcastle. Newcastle will press high and look to keep the ball, dominate the ball, and sort of just eventually look to pin teams back. And I think if that does happen, again, will Anthony Elanga struggle? I'm not too sure. I feel like he might, right? Of course, not every team, like I said, not every team will play like that against Newcastle, but certainly in those games where teams are looking to just sit back and in a deep low block, I do think Elanga will struggle. The signing doesn't really make the most of sense to me. I think Newcastle could have got better, but it is what it is. And of course, look, Jacob Murphy, I wouldn't really go there. They've just signed Elanga probably to play off the right hand side for like 50 million. So I do believe Elanga will, I think Elanga will probably be the main right winger, but he'll always be sort of susceptible to being rotated, but also subbed off around the 60th minute mark. That's what I do expect, especially with Champions League and European football that Newcastle do play. Yeah, I wouldn't really be surprised if Anthony Elanga gets benched every now and then for Jacob Murphy, because Jacob Murphy is more than capable of you know, stepping in and putting in a good performance as we saw in the second half of last season. So yeah, I wouldn't be too confident in Elanga starting week in, week out, and I wouldn't be too confident in Elanga getting 90 minutes. So for that reason as well, I'd probably put him as that's why I would put him as an avoid. So yeah, look, I think Newcastle will have pretty decent fixtures, I'm not gonna lie. Funnily enough, I think this game week 1 fixture against Aston Villa away probably does suit Elanga, because I feel like that is a game where Newcastle will probably look to play a more transitional type of game, probably a little bit more deeper than usual, and look to hit Aston Villa on the break, especially because Villa do like to play at high line as well. So yeah, Villa do like, well, based off last season, they might change their play style, who knows, but based off last season, Villa did like to play a really, really high line, and that is a sort of game where Elanga probably thrives in and probably does well in. But yeah, overall, I wouldn't go for Elanga to start the season. I really wouldn't. I just do wonder, you know, what his minutes are going to be like as well. But yeah, in terms of the fixtures for Newcastle, Villa away in game week 1, Liverpool home in game week 2, and then after that, from game week 3 onwards, I think their fixtures are really, really good. Leeds away in 3, game week 4, Wolves, game week 5, Bournemouth, and then Arsenal in game week 6. So yeah, I think their fixtures are pretty decent, but yeah, for now, I would definitely say avoid Elanga and avoid Jacob Murphy. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash a like on the video and let me know, guys, do you agree with everything I said or do you disagree with the majority of things I said? I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings on the opinions that I gave on these players to avoid. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell as well so you never miss an upload. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. But until then, I'm out. Peace.